he creates man, man messes up, but he still pursues man and redeems man. That's reciprocity. Do you have the capacity right now to be reciprocal? That's what singleness is for. That's what the stewarding of that season is for.
But you need to be married
Yeah.
to have that happiness and enjoy the journey. I think that's a real drawback, because that means then that your happiness is founded predominantly in a state or institution, when it should be founded in God first.
Yeah. Your church, my church, everybody's church has to do a better job of creating programming for men to feel like they can be men without compromising their masculinity.
Wow. My heart is overwhelmed with joy and excitement, because we've been dealing in this month of February with relationships and the various aspects and states that we're in. Today, we're going to be dealing with the secrets of singleness, because there's different keys that really need to be given to you today. Listen, I want you to make sure you comment in the comment section, and also if you hear something that is good, say something. It's important that we do that. Note with me as well that I want you to subscribe to this channel so you can get regular updates and continue to be a part of what we're doing. Join us on Sunday at 10:30 a.m. because Sunday services are absolutely mind-blowing. You'll get awesome worship, a fresh word, and you'll continue to propel and excel to the next level. Today I'm here with a good friend and brother, the Honorable Pastor Josh Beer. Welcome.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Nice. Great having you. We're talking about the secrets to singleness. And really, there's different keys that we have to really analyze.
Yeah.
In terms of getting the best out of that phase.
Yeah.
And there's different phases in life. So I think we're going to go through them and talk about them. Can you give me an overview as it relates to what we're talking about today before I ask specific questions? Just give me an overview of what your feelings are in terms of
the secrets to singleness.
Yeah, and being single today in the church as a believer, with all those pressures and all those ideologies and ideas that come.
Yeah, I would say that singleness can be fulfilling if you understand who you are and whose you are, because you don't want to wait until you get in a marriage to discover your purpose. Because if you wait to get in a marriage to discover your purpose, you'll be frustrated because you took too long. So singleness is not to be, when you're single, you're not in the waiting room. No. You are in the process room. And when you steward the season of singleness correctly, man,
wow,
you can do more in a year. And I'm married now with 2 kids than any married couple could when it comes to hyper focusing on what God has given you to do. So don't treat singleness as like, I just need my man, or I need my male, or I need my wife. No, God got you in the perfect place, the perfect space that he can pour his spirit out on you for you to do what he's called you to do. So I think stewarding singleness is really important. So
that's really good.
That's my thought.
So you're saying while single, you're sort of being active, doing things. The Bible says they that wait upon the Lord. So while we're waiting, we're doing things. We're actively waiting.
Right.
So it's in the back of our mind or in our mind.
Right.
But what we're doing while waiting is essential. We're preparing. We're waiting in preparation.
Yeah.
And we're waiting, to get ourselves to the right place. So would you say that people who are waiting are and haven't found their spouse, would you say they're not ready for that yet, or God knows they're not ready yet, and that's why they're still waiting and they're not actually married quite yet? Does that mean that there's further development that they need to do, and that's probably why they're in that position
of not being married?
Yeah.
I would say, this is just me. To answer your question, I would say no.
Okay.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I think if single people want to not just survive, but they want to thrive, right? If they want to thrive, live optimally, Christ said, I've come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. If you want to thrive in 2025, 2026, 2027, and for the remainder of the decade, and you are single, the key is making sure you prioritize that singleness is a gift. It is a gift. It is a gift. That means when you get a gift, when you get a good gift, you take care of it. So you got to take care of the season. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I would say no. I would say no. Waiting, the Bible says this: wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart. Then he says, wait, I say, on the Lord. In other words, he said it one time, but it wasn't good enough to say it one time. He says it again because he wants you to wait. And so I think most people are conflicting the difference between wait and waiting. WEIGHT, the wait. WAIT, wait. And when you don't prioritize, and when Christ is not at the center, you can't determine the different weights. Because you get what I'm saying? So I'm saying most people think that their singleness is a weight. But if you work out, like I work out, and if you've ever been to the gym,
Yeah, I see, man. Yeah, muscles, doc.
You don't get stronger until weight is applied. So maybe the season that you're in of singleness is cultivating strength that you didn't know that you had, because it's putting weight on you so that you can wait the season out better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Am I answering your question?
You answered the question.
Okay.
And so what about those who've been single for quite some time?
Give me a timeline.
A long time. Whatever you consider a long time. 10 years, 15 years.
By choice? Or
No,
they want it? Okay.
Yeah. How do they approach that spiritually, psychologically, emotionally? Because it's good. Yes, it's weight, not weight. Is it, the weight of glory, as it were? But weight, WAIT, but they don't have what they deem as their ultimate, which is marriage. So how do they handle that?
How do they handle?
Yeah, waiting for an extended period of time and not being married, so they don't have what they really desire. And the things that come with that.
With
being married.
With being married, which is
having somebody around. Companionship, sex,
yeah.
Emotions, physical emotions towards them.
The highlight reel of what we say marriage.
Traveling. Imagine travel, or do you go with, you go and eat in restaurants by yourself.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I'm saying with every blessing there's a backside with a burden.
Yeah.
Yeah. With every blessing, there's a backside to the burden.
So you're saying it's perspective.
Absolutely. It has to be, because you could put marriage on such a pedestal that it even trumps the seat and the throne of God in your heart. Right? And so, yeah, marriage is wonderful. Yes, it's fulfilling. Yes, it's amazing. But the reality is, not every day is peaches and cream. There are some days that it's frustration, aggravation. We ain't talking today. you got to sleep on the couch. So let's not just rush into this highlight reel of what we think marriage is, because whatever you think it is, it's not. Right? Like, so I think we need to start there. Let's set the expectation for what marriage really is, because it's not mountaintop experiences every day. Some days it's valley-like moments. And so if you're single and you're waiting, it's about perspective. That's number one. But how you wait while you're single is imperative to how you'll prosper when God sends you the promise, right? Because waiting is not this passive, it's not sitting on the sidelines of life while life is still going on. No, you got to get out and still wait with expectation, which means how you wait is indicative of your mindset.
Right.
So if you take on a victim mentality and not a victor mentality, you'll wait differently.
Right.
Right. So you'll stop getting your hair done. Fellas, you'll stop getting your beard done. You'll stop the maintenance. You'll stop the upkeep. And so I want to tell somebody, don't get weary in well doing. In due season, if you don't faint, you will reap. So what outside of marriage brings you fulfillment? That's number 3. That you got to ask yourself that question, because when you do get married, you will still need to find things that bring you fulfillment within the marriage. So again, it's back to the same thing about perspective. Hey.
So that's interesting what you're saying.
Okay.
As you talk about perspective, because you're saying that there's a counterbalance to every position.
Absolutely.
Now, do you feel in this social media era, in 2025, that people go on social media and they present marriage as an ideal and as this sort of perfect Romeo and Juliet union, and it not always is, and that then allows people who are maybe not married to look at sometimes that and feel as it's predominantly all positive, which it is positive, but the consideration of the drawbacks are not included in their concept. Do you believe that?
Yeah. It's like almost like ESPN, the top 5 highlights, top 10 highlights. You see the highlights. You see all of LeBron James' greatest dunks, see Lamar Jackson's greatest throws, but you don't see the interceptions. You don't see the misses. You don't see the missed dunks. You don't see the turnovers. That's what marriage is like.
Less than that, you don't see the training session, gym set, what they go eat.
You see the highlight reel, and people are fronting and putting on a facade in social media, because social media is a business. So you have to present well on platforms to get likes, comments, shares, subscribes. That's how this thing works. And so if I'm trying to make a business out of social media, and I have a beautiful wife or I have an attractive husband, I'm going to present it well that get me the likes, shares, subscribes, and business deals. And so people who are single, who don't or may not understand that there are some people who are doing this thing on social media for money. They're trying to
part of the business.
It's a part of a business, and it's creating unrealistic expectations in your mind of what, oh my gosh, my husband's gonna come and when I get home, he's gonna
have red roses.
He's gonna have red roses. He's gonna have 6-pack abs, and it's gonna be an amazing shape, and he's just gonna be the man. It's like, it's not like that. For every great day, there may be 3 bad days, and vice versa. It's up and down, but you got to have some maturity in the marriage to stay even keel. But that would be my advice. Like, get out of social media.
Yeah,
it's not real.
Find you first. If you can exist happy,
by
yourself, then when you get married, it will just simply be a complement
Yeah.
to your already happy existence. But if you need to be married to have that happiness and enjoy the journey, I think that's a real drawback, because that means then that your happiness is founded predominantly in a state or institution, when it should be founded in God first.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're married, it's not that you're going to say, well, if anything happens to my spouse, it's not going to bother me. Of course it will. They're bonded and you're married. But you really have to find your own peace, your own joy. Because I know some people who are married and lonely. As strange as that sounds, but it's a possibility. And if you find your own way to feel fulfilled and your own joy, then that won't happen, and you can still exist in a happy state. So I think that's
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying. I think you want to show up to the marriage complete, not 50%. You want to show up to the marriage at 100%. So like you just said, it's a compliment, not that the other person is 100% and you're 50%, because now the marriage is unequally yoked. And you don't want to show up to the marriage 50% and they're 50%. Now y'all trying to be complete. No.
Yeah, because you're drawing off so much emotions, and you're so needy, it becomes a burden.
What was supposed to be a blessing is now a burden.
Wait.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're showing up incomplete because you did not steward the season of singleness. Get all you can in the single season. Get all you can out. Get all you can out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's real good. So would you say then that another reason that another key, speaking about keys today, and one key is how to handle the pressure that comes to a person when they're single, because there's a lot of pressure to be married, to find the person, to have a boyfriend, to have a girlfriend, because everybody else has got one. You turn up to the family do, and everybody's got somebody, or to the, gathering of friends. So there's an enormous amount of peer pressure placed on people today to have that significant other. What is the key, do you believe, in an individual being able to sustain that societal pressure? Because it's pretty big.
Yeah, I think you got to know your worth. You have to know your worth. And we're talking about keys today. And the key to knowing your worth is knowing your values. I think so many people settle and allow the societal pressures to come into their life. And now I'm engaged to somebody that I half like. I don't even like you all the way, but because there's so much pressure,
it looks good.
You look good publicly, but privately you the devil.
It's true.
Because you settled because you didn't know your worth, or worse, you knew who you were, and you let the enemy trick you out of your position by talking you out of something that doesn't even look like what God promised you. So you settle for a man that looks good on the outside, but he's broken in the inside. You settle for a woman who's banging, who got it, legs, hips, and fingertips, but she's a diva who makes more withdrawals than deposits, because you settled. Because my coach said this to me before. He said, we don't settle at the level, we don't settle at the level of our hopes, dreams or ambitions. We settle at the level of our standards.
Right.
And so if you don't have a standard, anybody will be able to pluck you out of the ground. Anybody will be able to take you out of what God's told you about you. Anybody will be able to tell you, you look good, let's do this. And you'll go for it. But when you have a standard.
I like that, because you've got to set your own standard. None of us can get up today and go into the shop and decide what we want to pay for an item. We're told what that item costs. Because if we could give what we wanted, we'd all be paying a cent for, a pair of a Louis Vuitton bag. But we're given and we're told what that value is. And I believe from what you've just said, we've got to let people know what our value is.
Yeah.
And the way we do that is keeping our standard high and letting them know, this is who I am and this is what I stand for. Yeah. Cannot lower your standard just because you want more sales. Because you might get more sales, you're going to get less income and less revenue.
Right.
So I think that's a really important component, really.
Because people will lower your standard if they can.
Yeah, they'll buy you at the standard they want to buy you at. Look, the standard you have set for yourself.
Right, and so many people think they have high standards, but really they're on the value menu. They think their standards are so high, but anybody can buy your attention.
Yeah, because here is a golden rule. You cannot go into any designer or high-class place and barter. I said, no. You can't walk into Gucci. You can't barter. You can't walk into Bentley or to Rolls-Royce and say, but you can go into, a lower store, I'm not going to name, but just a more
right on the street
store, and you can go, look, give me a discount, and they'll discount it. You can tell them, there's a little, scuff here, they'll discount it.
Or counterfeit. You can bargain counterfeit Louis Vuitton.
Wow.
Because it's not real. When you don't know who you are,
don't know your value.
You don't know your value.
You settle for
you settle for anything.
Yeah. Wow. So so the important thing you're saying is to know your value.
Yes.
Keep your standards. Know what you're looking for.
Because nobody knows it but you.
Wow.
Who else is gonna know it? Who else is literally gonna know this is the going rate for my attention? Only you know it. So you got to put a price on it. And it's not a physical price. It's an energy price.
Yes, an energy price. It's your lists. And here's another key.
Yeah.
Let's go into another key. The key is you've got to know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And it should be listed out in different areas of life, different aspects. And we're not just talking about, he has to be a baller and have this amount of money.
No, they should be.
We're speaking about emotional connection.
Right.
We're talking about vision.
Yeah.
We're talking about spirituality.
Yeah. That's really what we're talking about.
We're not
talking about anything else.
Especially for the men.
Yeah.
Because the stats say that if a man comes to church, it's 92% likely the family will. But if a female comes to church, I think the stat drops to something like 40% or so.
Wow.
So if a man is spiritual, that house is going to usually be saved. So I think we have to, for the singles, they have to have a list of what they want in a person. But it goes both ways. They have to also know what they're giving. They have to have a list of, I will give this, I will give that. This is what the value I'm going to add. Or else you'll enter into when you meet someone and you'll say, you better have all these 10 things. But they're sitting there thinking, wow, this is a heavy price.
What you got? What are you bringing to the table?
You see what I mean? So,
yes.
Because, value.
Absolutely.
The only reason we can say that you can't go into Rolls-Royce, Bentley, and these high designer stores and barter is because they have shown their value. There's no question in their value. Handmade this and that and the other,
They have a track record.
They have a track record. Okay, here's another question.
Yes.
Here's another question. You're single. How do you what is the key to staying saved? And when we talk about staying saved, abstinence, and not succumbing to the pressure of, well, you know what? I'm single. I've been single for a while. It's difficult. And I'm going to get into,
a situationship. That's what they calling it now.
What they call it?
A situationship.
A situationship.
Which is, we're not
intimacy before marriage.
Yeah, we're straddling the fence. We don't have a real title. In church, we do that in church. Let's not play the game. Like, it's church folk that are doing the messed up stuff. It's the people that know that they're not supposed to be doing it that's doing it. So how do I keep my salvation when my flesh is on fire?
Yes, sir.
You need a team of accountability. And I say team because you will need more than one person to keep you accountable for different things in your life. But specifically about not slipping into premarital sex, you'll need to get some people in your life who are married, right? Because you'll need their grace because you want to be married. So you need people who are married praying for you. You know what I've discovered? Married people hang with married people. Single people hang with single people. But I've recently come to this conclusion, especially now that I'm starting this thing called Limitless Nights. So many single people are coming. But my wife and I are now creating a safe space for singles to connect.
Oh, that's nice.
I mean, that's what it is. It's not a hookup club, but it is a space where you can connect with folks who are saved and folks who know the standard. And so if you dating somebody that you think if you pray long enough and you pray hard enough, God is going to save them. God, that you setting yourself up. I just know God is going to save him from me. He ain't saved yet, but I love him. He make money. He's strong. He got all the things, but he just not saved. Yeah, but he got you in his bed. That's not integrity. You want a man with integrity who knows the scripture. And you want a man also who doesn't just know it, but knows it well enough to cover you.
Right.
So yeah, the unsaved guy, you love him, you like him, you dating him, you doing all these things with him or her, vice versa. But there is not a standard there to keep you in the right and straight and narrow path. So I would say accountability, get the right people around you, because teamwork makes the dream work. So if you're not around the right people with the right mindset, the right people who are doing the right thing, who want to do what you're trying to do, like you're trying to be married, you're trying to not have premarital sex, you got to be connected to those kind of people. That's what I think. That's what I think.
Wow. And keep your standards so you know what.
Yeah, like if you know it's a struggle for you, don't go to the club. Why are you going there? Why are you going to places and spaces that you're not finding your person? Because the right person will wait for you. You gotta not just think that. You gotta believe that. You gotta not just in thought, but in action and deed. Which means, if the person that I believe, if I really believe God has somebody for me, how am I waiting for them? How am I waiting for them? Am I waiting for them by sleeping in other people's bed? Would you want that? Would you want them to do that? Would you? So you gotta count the cost with.
Sure.
Yeah. So
sure.
Yeah. That's what I would say. That's what I would say.
That's good. I've got a question for you.
Okay.
And this is quite deep.
Lord.
Drum roll. No. So here we have it. So churches in the Western world are 65% female and 35% male.
Really? Wow.
And then of that 35%, why you know? Of 5%, we now need to look at who might be qualified out of that 35 to be married. And that number may whittle down. There are some struggling with different things. And we're talking about in the church, homosexuality, past issues. Some have come out of prisons. The church is a hospital.
Yep.
Now, that doesn't disqualify you, but it just means you're in process.
Mm-hmm.
So my 35% is getting smaller.
So you're thinking it's like 15?
Maybe 20.
20.
So so the numbers don't work.
So you said
if we're being honest here,
60?
65.
65.
That's the stat. So I've got 65% females. Okay. That's why when you have a female conference and things like that, it's jam-packed.
Stadiums.
Yeah. So I've got my forecasted 20% against 65. So I'm 45% out of my figures. I told you I had a question.
I'm waiting for it.
How do we deal with those kind of stats where there are 45% potentially, and it could be off a few percent, it could be 30%, whatever it is, it could be 25. That's a huge number because that suggests that somebody I'm not saying it's a definite, but that suggests someone is not getting married.
Yeah. I'm not sure that we can actually do anything about those numbers. I think those numbers are what they are.
Bring more men into church.
That's what I was going to say. I think if the church is really going to be the church really has to, as young people say, double down on evangelism. Really get serious about winning the community, winning the street, winning the city. Because when revival hits a city, everybody gets saved. People get saved. And so I'm not sure we can do anything about those numbers. I think that's more of an evangelistic question, like what's the programming in the church like? Is the programming in the church catered to women? And I'm not against creating programming in the church that help women. I think we should resource our women. I'm not against that. What I am saying, though, is if majority of the programming is catered to women, then the numbers make sense.
Right.
There's a reason why it's 65 and it's 30. So I think we as the church, capital C church, your church, my church, everybody's church has to do a better job of creating programming for men to feel like they can be men without compromising their masculinity.
Wow. Say that again.
In the church.
Say that again.
I think the church should create programming that does not compromise my masculinity.
Sure.
So there are certain things as a man that I like to do.
Sure.
Then there are certain things as a man that I don't like to do. And I don't want to be a part of experiences, not just in church, holistically, that don't really connect with my masculinity. And that doesn't mean that I'm some tyrannical, macho, masculine man. That's not what I'm saying at all. I am saying, though, that there are certain things that I don't want to be a part of because it does not awaken me as a man, as a God-fearing man. So I think that's one of the things that we need to really focus on.
That's powerful.
I hope I answered your question.
No, you did, because I was thinking while you was talking that God said to Abram, I'm going to give you a child. And he never saw it come to pass. So he went and with Hagar said, God, look, I did it and God said, no, that's not what it was. I said, I'm going to do it. And it was through, Sarai. So in terms of singles, it's not for them to go and bring someone into the church per se. I mean, if you're doing it for evangelistic purposes, yes, but not like, okay, I like him, let me bring him in. I believe the church, because it's a God thing,
right?
We've got to evangelize, bring more men into the church, and therefore it will be done as a God thing as opposed to being done, by individuals. Because
You settle in, your biological clock is going up, so now you got to find you a man, and all of these things are happening, and they're very real things. And so I don't want to just make light of it. Like, it's a very real thing. The biological clock is ticking for women. The window for women to have kids is a certain age. So I get it, but if it's a God thing, you gotta let it be a God thing. And I think that's what you're saying.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You gotta let it go. You gotta let the church. We gotta pray and have the church to bring in more men, more souls in general, but definitely more men, and that sort of thing. So I believe that that's really, really important.
That's a tough question you just asked me, so I hope I answered it.
That's why I was saying there's more that,
Yeah.
it's something. So people who are single, how can they have their best life where they wake up every day, and what are some of the things they can do? This is another key. The key is in living your best life. So we was talking earlier about social media, where the pressures of, society literally say, marriage is the optimum, it's the greatest thing, and everybody's sort of aspiring for that. How can you have your TikTok, Instagram moment as a single where you're like, listen, I get it, you're having your best life as married couples, figuratively speaking, but I'm also having my best life as well. What are some things? Give me some things. Give me 5 things that a single can do to really live their best life right now and have their quote unquote, story on social media looking good too.
Yeah, I think number one is get serious about you.
Yeah.
Get serious about you. And what I mean by that is get serious about your passion, get serious about your talent, get serious about the gifts that God has given you. Because when you get serious about those things, then they develop and you can scale the skill that God has given you. Okay, I'll say it again. You can scale the skill if you develop the gift. So singleness is not a curse, it's a gift. So that's a mindset. So you got to get rid of the stinking thinking, right? I think I said it earlier. Romans 12:2 says, be not transformed or be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So you got to get rid of some of the stinking thinking about your singleness, because it's not a curse, it's a gift. And when you adopt this mentality, you'll have a growth mindset. And when you have a growth mindset, you're not lacking. Nothing's lacking. Nothing's missing. And so when you get serious about yourself, number one, you get serious about your passion, you get serious about your gift, you get serious about your growth mentality, then you start living in the abundance of what comes from a growth mentality, which is the fruit of the singleness. So somebody said the other day, we are living in 2 seasons. He said we're either living in a season of reaping or in a season of harvest, of sowing or reaping, right? Yeah. And I just kind of was like, I don't know if that's true. I think the mature believer, specifically the single believer who is maturing, needs to understand you're not in either or season. You're not in a reaping or a sowing season. You're always in a sowing season because you always want to be reaping. So you always in that. You're not between the two. So I think plant the seed. Plant the seed. Develop the gift. Develop your passions.
Wow.
Get serious about what's your 5-year plan about you. Because when you get married, the 5-year plan shouldn't change. You should be able to be so crystal clear with the vision that God has given you.
And I also
can say it to them.
I find it hard to understand as well. People who are single usually have more time.
I mean, time on time on time on time.
And then they're not helping in the church. They're so busy doing other stuff they can be a lot more resourceful in terms of doing things in the church, which brings about a level of attraction as well.
Yeah.
You see, there's an ambience that comes from that and an anointing that comes out of that. When I was single, I don't know about you, but I was in the church all the time.
I was in the church
doing stuff. And so I think that's another key, being as resourceful as possible. You know, by the time you get married, you should know usually where your gift is, where God's called you, what your destiny is, within the church as well.
Yeah. David was in the field by himself.
Yeah.
When he perfected his gift.
Yeah.
His gift was not perfected in marriage. His gift was perfected in the field.
That's where he worshipped.
He learned how to worship. But he didn't just learn how to worship.
He had to fight.
He learned how to war. Your single season is to learn how to worship and war. Because in some seasons, you'll need to worship your way through.
Yeah.
And then in some seasons, you'll need to war your way through. But if you don't develop the capacity to steward your field season, you'll never get to your future. Or you'll get to the future.
But incomplete.
Incomplete.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So what are some of the other things that single people can do just to get themselves ready and live their best life now?
Do some character assessment. What are the things that you don't like about you? You don't have to wait for somebody to tell you what they don't like about you. There's some things that you might not like about you right now. Your single season, you have the time, like you just said, to work on the things that are not so, that you might not like. Maybe for you want to take on a new diet. Work on that. Because when you get married, your time is not the same.
Go to the gym, like
going to the gym or going to the gym or cookbooks. If that's your thing, like if you want to be the kind of woman or the kind of man that wants to cook for your spouse, work on that. Work on the things that you are not going to be able to work on because time is not going to be so available for you. And so I would say work on you. Work on you. Work on your emotional intelligence. Work on your relational intelligence. Work on your spiritual intelligence. Work on you. If you work on you, when you get to said marriage, you'll be able to give something to the marriage.
I like that. The Bible talks about Jacob resting with the angel until the break of day. The angel said, "Let me go." He said, "I won't let you go until you bless me." And basically the angel turned around and said, "Listen, I'm going to change you. The blessing that you've been wrestling for is nothing exterior. It's actually about you. I'm going to change your name from Jacob Trickster, Hill Kendra Supplanter, to Prince.
Yeah.
I'm going to change your name to Israel."
Yeah.
So at times we assume the blessing is outside.
Yeah.
But actually the blessing is inside.
Yeah.
And so in your singleness, you can become the best version of what you need to be. That way you get into marriage adding, not just subtracting. You're making deposits and withdrawals, not just withdrawals and withdrawals.
Yeah, because then you start to really take on the relationship of God and his children. You start to mirror that relationship, and that relationship is a reciprocal relationship.
Wow.
It's reciprocity.
Wow.
He creates man messes up, but he still pursues man and redeems man. That's reciprocity. Do you have the capacity right now to be reciprocal? That's what singleness is for. That's what the stewarding of that season is for.
So that's why salvation is by faith and action. Got to be baptized, got to have the Holy Spirit, because God wants reciprocity. He could have done it without it.
He didn't. He had all.
Principle is,
oh my God,
I need some of your input. Not just take.
Yeah, I'm not.
Give.
I'm not
or just level on your level. My gosh, we could preach.
I mean, I need to write that down. I need to write that down.
Yeah, this is good, man. Listen, this has been a wonderful encounter. We've been speaking about the secrets and the keys to being single and saved. And we've had such a wonderful discussion. Listen, I want you to join us next week for another episode. We're going to go into episode number 3. And it's going to be a great blessing. If you have been watching today, I want you to subscribe to the channel and be a part of what we're doing. Listen, I am giving you an invitation to join CLCC's Blockbuster service on Sunday at 10:30 a.m. You'll be richly blessed. If you've never visited before, the information is actually on the screen so you can be a part of that service, and I'm telling you, it'll be life-changing and impactful. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Pastor Josh.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a wonderful honor, and we'll see you next week for another encounter. Stay blessed of God.